are excursions in Honduras safe? And that's a fair question, because you hear things about Honduras. There's a lot of people migrating from Honduras because of like violence and gang violence and things like that. So one key thing to understand about Honduras, if you're going there on a cruise ship, you're probably going to Mahogany Bay. So it's Isla Roatan Island, which is off of the mainland from Honduras. So it's much safer. It's similar to Cozumel that way. It's off Cozumel's off the coast of Mexico. So because it's an island, it's more controlled, it's more contained. Somebody couldn't rob a bank and then just drive away to like Canada or something because you're on an island.
There's nowhere you can go.
And so it's a lot easier to control what's going on that island. So for one thing, to understand that where the cruises go in Honduras is a safer part of Honduras, generally speaking. So if it is, again, a carnival excursion, it's completely safe and the ship will wait for you. If you're going to a third-party excursion, I would recommend doing some due diligence and research and maybe considering carnival alternatives. Daniel Johnson's Sloth and Monkey Hangout, perfectly safe, very professional, very cost-effective, I must say. Like $40 will get you the whole, animal experience plus a tour of the island with a stop at like a chocolate factory and stuff. It's fantastic. They make sure they get you back to the ship on time. They know what they're doing. Others I couldn't say because I don't have personal experience, but if you're worried about like a kidnapping or a mugging or a robbery or something like that, I don't think that's as big a concern where the cruises go. Mainland Honduras, I don't know. The concern would be greater, do more research and maybe be more hesitant. But I think for the island of Isla Roatan, it's fairly safe. They don't have stoplights or sidewalks in a lot of places. They've got stop signs and that's about it. So in terms of like once you're outside the cruise area, kind of walking along the road, don't expect it to be like there's a paved sidewalk. There isn't really. And so traffic is largely uncontrolled because there's no lights, but there's not a huge amount of traffic. So Honduras, I think it sounds scarier than it is when you realize that you're on an island that is sort of separate and safer.
And also, if you're not sure about the safety of Honduras, you have to use a bit of common sense. So, for example, exercise caution is what I say. So don't walk out by yourself at nighttime, flashing a bunch of money in your wallet, an expensive watch, jewelry. Do not go Mr. T style.
Yeah.
It's keep your...
Flav. Don't have a giant clock. If you have a giant clock, get the clock at Walmart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't get it from the jewelry store.
Don't flash expensive jewelry. Don't take your rings off. Try to fit in and don't look classy or don't show expensive items.
Yeah.
You have to use extreme caution. You got to use common sense. Now, common sense is not all that common, but just keep all your valuables in the ship. You don't need to take your jewelry. You don't need to take your necklaces with you on excursions. If you have a watch, fine, put a watch on, but not an expensive Rolex or, it's like you use a little sport watch that if it does get lost, or at least you don't have to worry about it. Keep your phone hidden. Use it, yes, but don't flash it around, especially, if you have an Apple phone or whatever, because there are residents on the island that don't have those type of things, and seeing it might,
provide temptation.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's basically use your own caution, use your own common sense, and just be careful out there. Know your surroundings.
Yeah.
Don't go into areas, don't go into dark alleyways. It's... stay where the tourists go. If you need to go off track, and see about getting a guide or booking a guide, or I'm sure there are a lot of volunteers out there that would be happy to help you. And don't go alone. Always go with somebody.
Yeah, and I mean, regardless of the port that I'm going to, rare is the time that I carry more than, say, $100 US cash with me.
Yeah.
If I bring more on the trip, I might leave it securely locked somewhere in the cabin, well hidden, and secured. But, I wouldn't bring much more than $100 US cash. I'd bring my phone, and I might bring my DSLR. I'll keep the DSLR in a backpack most of the time, unless I'm actively taking pictures. So, don't let your fear limit you. Such that you're afraid to use your phone or bring a bit of money or bring a DSLR or bring a watch. Those are all practical things.
Yeah, just use caution.
But jewelry serves no necessary purpose. No. And bringing more than $100 cash is probably unnecessary, depending on what you have planned. If you've got multiple credit cards, maybe just bring one. Maybe you don't need to bring, a multitude. Little things like that. Be practical about it. But also don't let your fear or your concerns hold you back from having an experience. Because if it's unnecessary, you're just going to be kicking yourself. Like, one of the first times I was in, I think it was like the second time I was in Cozumel, we were walking around trying to find this restaurant Isabella wanted to go to. And I was absolutely terrified. I mean, maybe not terrified, but I was concerned. It was a rundown part of town. There were no tourists around. A lot of dark alleys, stuff like that. I mean, it was daytime, but, a lot of alleys and stuff like that. And I was keenly aware of where my wallet and everything was. Mm-hmm. And then when I got home, I was doing some reading about Cozumel, and I was reading about how the violent crime rate is nearly zero. And their worst problem is pickpockets. And like, okay, knowing where my wallet was practical, but being afraid of being murdered was totally uncalled for now that I had that information. So that kind of thing can help mitigate it too, wherever you're going.
Yeah. And also be aware that if you do have a wallet or your passport, keep it in your front pocket. All right, so that way you have where your hands are, so you can always feel with your hands, okay, it's still in my front pocket. Or a lot of pickpockets are able to pull items out of your back pocket without you knowing. So
yeah, or make sure that your back pockets are buttoned. If it has a button, then then you're good there too.
Then you're good there, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Honduras.